I should have kept my mouth shut. That single thought pulsed through my mind as his fingers closed around my wrist. Not painful, but absolute. The kind of grip that didn't ask permission because it didn't need to. My name is Elena Rousseau, and up until 17 seconds ago, I was just a graduate student working a side job as a waitress at Vincenzo's, the most exclusive Italian restaurant in the city, the kind of place where reservations required a 3-month wait and enough money to make most people weep. I spoke 4 languages fluently, a gift from my late French mother and my obsessive need to escape into books, but I'd never imagined that particular skill would be the thing that destroyed my invisibility. The evening had started like any other Saturday night. I'd tied my dark hair into a neat bun, smoothed down my simple black dress, and prepared myself for 8 hours of fake smiles and aching feet. The restaurant hummed with the low murmur of wealth and power. Crystal, chandeliers casting amber light across tables draped in white linen. Then he walked in. I noticed him immediately. Everyone did. You couldn't not notice Dante Salvatore when he entered a room. It was like watching an apex predator move through a herd of prey. 6'3" of controlled danger wrapped in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my entire year's tuition. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on Renaissance sculptures, all sharp angles and brutal beauty. But it was his eyes that made my breath catch. Storm gray and utterly cold, scanning the room with the lazy confidence of a man who owned everything he looked at. Maybe he did. The restaurant manager, Marcus, had gone pale the moment Dante appeared. He'd practically tripped over himself escorting the man to the private corner booth, the one we kept reserved for people whose names we didn't speak aloud. 3 men followed in Dante's wake, each wearing suits that couldn't quite hide the bulk of weapons. Beneath, I should have requested a different section, but I didn't. Because rent was due, and the private booths tipped better, and I was stupid enough to believe I could remain invisible if I just kept my head down and did my job. For the first hour, everything went smoothly. I brought wine a bottle that cost more than my monthly salary. I took orders in near silence. I didn't make eye contact. The men spoke in low voices, discussing things I deliberately didn't listen to, and I told myself I'd be fine. Then the 2 Frenchmen arrived. They were younger than Dante, dressed expensively but with an edge of desperation in their movements. Marcus seated them 3 tables away, and I watched Dante's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. The air in the restaurant thickened with a tension that made my instincts scream. I was clearing Dante's appetizer plates when I heard it. The Frenchmen were speaking rapidly, voices low but sharp with anger. Most people in the restaurant wouldn't have understood. But I did. Think Salvatore even knows we're here? Arrogant bastard. Doesn't matter. Emile has the photographs. Once we send them to the district attorney, his entire empire crumbles. We'll be untouchable. And if he suspects, then he's dead by Monday. The contract's already arranged. My hands froze on the wine glass I was holding. Every muscle in my body locked. I should have kept walking. Should have pretended I heard nothing, understood nothing. But my eyes, traitorous things, flicked toward Dante's table, and he was already watching me. Those gray eyes pinned me in place like a butterfly on a board. He'd seen my reaction, seen the moment of recognition, the flash of horror I couldn't quite hide. Everything all right? His voice was low, smooth as expensive whiskey, with an edge that suggested he already knew the answer. I opened my mouth, closed it. My heart hammered against my ribs. The word came out barely a whisper. One of his men, a mountain of muscle with cold eyes, leaned forward. "Boss, you want me to—" Dante raised one hand, silencing him without even looking away from me. "What did you hear?" It wasn't really a question. The Frenchmen were still talking, oblivious, still plotting his murder over their filet mignon. I should have lied. Should have smiled and said I didn't speak French. Should have done anything except what I actually did. "They're planning to kill you," I whispered. "Monday. They have photographs they're sending to the district attorney. Evidence of something. They think it will destroy you first." The words tumbled out in a rush, and the moment they left my lips, I knew I'd just signed away my normal life. Dante's expression didn't change, didn't even flicker, but something shifted in the air around him, something dark and deadly. "What else?" His voice remained calm, too calm. That's all I heard. I swear. I wasn't trying to listen. You speak French. Yes. And Italian, Spanish, German. My mother was— I cut myself off. He didn't care about my dead mother or my linguistics degree. Dante studied me for a long moment. Then, with movements so smooth they seemed choreographed, He stood. He was taller up close. Overwhelming. He moved around the table until he was directly in front of me. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and cedar sharp. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Elena. Elena Rousseau. Elena." He tested my name on his tongue like he was tasting wine. Then his hand moved, and before I could step back, his fingers wrapped around my wrist. Not painful, but absolute. "You're going to do exactly what I tell you. Understand?" I should have been terrified. I was terrified. But underneath the fear, something else flickered to life. Something dangerous that recognized the darkness in him and didn't immediately run. "I don't... Yes or no, Elena?" "Yes," I breathed. He smiled then. It was the most beautiful and terrifying thing I'd ever seen. "Good girl." He turned to his men without releasing my wrist. "Marco, arrange for the gentleman at table 7 to join us outside in 10 minutes. Quietly." Then those gray eyes returned to me. "And you, Elena, you work for me now." "What?" "No, I can't. You just saved my life." His thumb brushed across my racing pulse. "That means you're either extraordinarily brave or extraordinarily stupid. Either way, you're mine now. We'll discuss the terms of your employment after I handle our French problem." He released my wrist and turned away, already speaking in rapid Italian to his men. I stood frozen, my skin burning where he'd touched me, my entire world tilting off its axis. What had I just done? And why, despite the terror coursing through my veins, did some dark part of me want to follow him into whatever hell was about to unfold? I didn't follow him outside. Instead, I stood in the middle of Vincenzo's dining room, my wrist still tingling from his touch, watching, through the tall windows, as Dante Salvatore disappeared into the night with his men. The two Frenchmen were escorted out moments later by Marco, the mountain of muscle who'd sat at Dante's right hand. They went willingly, probably thinking they were being honored with some private negotiation. They had no idea they were walking to their deaths. I knew. Somehow, I knew. My hands trembled as I carried dishes to the kitchen, trying to appear normal even though nothing would ever be normal again. The other servers moved around me in their usual practiced chaos, completely unaware that a woman had just accidentally tangled herself in something dark and irreversible. "You work for me now," the words echoed in my head, spoken in that low, absolute voice that didn't believe in the concept of refusal. "Elena? You okay?" Marcus appeared at my elbow, his face still pale and pinched. "Mr. Salvatore said to tell you to wait. He'll send a car for you when your shift ends." My stomach dropped. "I can't. I have to. It wasn't a request." Marcus's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. "Listen to me carefully. Dante Salvatore is not a man you say no to. Whatever just happened out there, whatever he thinks you can do for him, you do it. You smile, you nod, and you thank God he's interested in keeping you alive." "Marcus, who is he?" But my manager just shook his head and walked away, leaving me with the terrible confirmation that I'd somehow caught the attention of someone powerful enough to make even the owner of Vincenzo's afraid. I finished my shift on autopilot, my mind racing through possibilities. I could run, pack my tiny apartment in an hour and disappear. Change my name, move to another city, start over. Except I didn't have the money for that. And something told me that men like Dante Salvatore had long reaches and longer memories. At midnight, as I was untying my apron with shaking fingers, Marco appeared. "Your ride's here." Through the restaurant's front windows, I could see a sleek black Mercedes idling at the curb. The same mountain of muscle. Marco stood beside the rear door, waiting. This was it. The moment I could still choose to run. Instead, I found myself walking outside into the cool night air, my jacket clutched tight around my shoulders. Marco opened the car door without a word, and I slid inside, my heart hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. Dante sat in the far corner of the back seat, surrounded by shadows. "Drive," he said quietly, and the car pulled smoothly into traffic. We sat in silence for several blocks. I couldn't look at him directly. The intensity of his presence filled the entire car, making the air feel thin. Instead, I stared at my hands twisted in my lap, at the city lights sliding past the tinted windows. "You're afraid of me," he said finally. Not a question. Yes, there was no point in lying. Good, fear is honest. A pause. "Look at me, Elena." I forced myself to turn, to meet those storm-gray eyes, in the dim interior. Up close, I could see details I'd missed before: the faint scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the shadow of exhaustion beneath his perfect control, the way his jaw clenched, as if he was perpetually holding back violence. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "I don't believe you." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. Smart girl. "But it's still true. You saved my life tonight. That matters in my world." "What happened to those men?" I asked, even though I didn't really want to know. "They won't be sending any photographs to anyone." His voice remained perfectly level. No remorse, no hesitation. Just cold, fact. My stomach twisted. "You killed them. I protected my family, my people. There's a difference." "No," I whispered. "There really isn't." Dante leaned forward slightly, and suddenly the space between us felt like nothing at all. "You want to judge me, Elena? Fine. But those men came to my city planning to murder me and destroy everything I've built. They would have killed anyone in their way, secretaries, accountants, maybe even a graduate student waitress who happened to overhear the wrong conversation. I eliminated a threat. That's all. You can't just, I can, I do, and now you know exactly who I am." His hand moved, and I tensed, but he only reached up to turn on the car's interior light. "Look at me. Really look." I did, and what I saw made my breath catch. There was blood on his hands, actual blood, dark against his olive skin. He made no attempt to hide it. Instead, he held my gaze as he calmly pulled a white handkerchief from his pocket and began wiping his fingers clean, the gesture almost meditative. "This is my world," he said softly. "Violence, power, consequences. I won't lie to you and pretend I'm something I'm not. But I keep my people safe. I keep my word. And when someone saves my life..." He folded the blood-stained handkerchief carefully. "I repay that debt. I don't want anything from you." My voice came out hoarse. Too late. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, heavy black cardstock with a phone number embossed in silver. "You speak 4 languages. You're observant. You kept your head in a crisis. I can use someone like you." "As what? A translator for more murder plots?" His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Among other things, I'll pay you $10,000 a month. Cash. Plus protection." The number made me dizzy. That was more than I made in 6 months at Vincenzo's. Protection from what? From the consequences of tonight. Those Frenchmen had friends, family, people who will want to know who warned me. His eyes held mine. "You're in danger now, Elena, whether you work for me or not. But if you're mine, I can keep you safe." "And if I refuse?" Dante leaned back, his face falling into shadow again. "Then I'll still keep you safe. Because you saved my life, and I honor my debts. But you'll do it alone, afraid, looking over your shoulder every day. Or you can accept my protection and my money, and learn to survive in my world." The car pulled to a stop in front of my apartment building. How did he know where I lived? And Marco opened the door from outside. Dante extended his hand, the card held between 2 fingers. "Think about it. You have 24 hours to decide." I took the card, my fingers trembling. Our hands didn't touch, but I felt the gravity of him anyway, the pull of something dark and inevitable. "What if I run?" I asked. "Then I'll find you." He said it so simply, so certainly, that I believed him completely. "Sleep well, Elena. I'll be in touch." I stumbled out of the car on shaking legs and watched the Mercedes disappear into the night, leaving me alone on the sidewalk with a business card in my hand and blood money in my future. Inside my apartment, I locked every lock and leaned against the door, my heart still racing. I should burn the card, forget this. Night, pretend it never happened. Instead, I sat on my worn couch and stared at the silver number glinting in the lamplight, knowing with absolute certainty that my choice had already been made the moment I opened my mouth in that restaurant. I'd saved a monster's life, and now he owned a piece of mine. I didn't sleep. How could I, when every time I closed my eyes, I saw blood on expensive hands and storm-gray eyes that held no remorse? I spent the night pacing my tiny apartment, the business card burning a hole in my pocket, my mind spinning through scenarios that all ended badly. By dawn, I'd convinced myself I was being paranoid. Men like Dante Salvatore didn't actually care about broke graduate students. He'd given me the card out of some twisted sense of obligation, but he'd forget about me by noon. I'd go to my morning classes, work my evening shift, and this would all fade into a surreal memory. I was wrong. At 7 a.m., there was a knock on my door, professional, measured. Exactly 3 times. My blood went cold. I approached the peephole on trembling legs. Marco stood in my hallway, perfectly still, his massive frame somehow looking even more intimidating in the morning light. He wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him, sharp-featured, maybe 40, wearing an elegant gray suit and an expression that suggested she suffered no fools. "Miss Rousseau," Marco's voice carried through the door. "Mr. Salvatore sent us to escort you. You can open the door, or I can open it. Your choice." My hands shook as I undid the locks. The woman swept past me the moment the door opened, her heels clicking on my worn linoleum. She surveyed my apartment with cold efficiency, the sagging couch, the textbooks piled on every surface, the kitchen that barely fit one person. "Pack a bag," she said without preamble. "Essentials only. You're moving." "I'm what?" "Mr. Salvatore has arranged more suitable accommodations." She pulled out a tablet, already scrolling through something. "You'll have 24-hour security, a salary deposited weekly, and access to resources necessary for your work. Your rent here is paid through the end of the month. You can keep the apartment or surrender the lease, your choice." My brain struggled to catch up. I didn't accept his offer. "I haven't called." "You didn't refuse it either." The woman's eyes met mine, sharp and knowing. "My name is Catherine. I manage Mr. Salvatore's business operations. And you, Miss Rousseau, became his business the moment you opened your mouth in that restaurant. He said I had 24 hours to decide. You did. But staying in this apartment, in your old life, with your old vulnerabilities?" Catherine gestured toward my window. "That's not a choice. That's suicide. The people hunting for information about last night are very good at their jobs. They'll find you by tonight, tomorrow at the latest." The casual certainty in her voice made my stomach drop. "So I'm a prisoner. You're protected." Catherine's expression didn't soften. "There's a difference. Now pack. We leave in 10 minutes. I wanted to argue, to scream that this was insane, illegal, impossible. But Marco's silent presence in my doorway and the memory of blood on Dante's hands killed the words in my throat. I packed. The car ride took 40 minutes, winding through the city into a neighborhood where the buildings grew taller and the people on the sidewalks wore clothes that cost more than my education. We pulled into an underground garage of a gleaming high-rise, and Catherine led me to a private elevator that required a key card and a fingerprint scan. 23rd floor, she said as we rose smoothly. "Your apartment. Fully furnished, utilities included. Groceries will be delivered weekly, or you can arrange your own if you prefer. Security is discreet but omnipresent. Don't bother looking for them, you won't see them unless there's trouble." The elevator opened directly into an apartment that made my breath catch. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Hardwood floors gleamed beneath elegant furniture. The kitchen alone was bigger than my entire previous apartment. Everything was done in shades of cream and gray, expensive and sterile and utterly foreign. I couldn't finish the sentence. "Adequate," Catherine finished crisply. "Mr. Salvatore will brief you on your duties this evening. 8 o'clock. Don't be late." She handed me a phone, sleek, black, already programmed with numbers I didn't recognize. "Everything you need is in here. Questions? Why is he doing this?" For the first time, something almost human flickered across Catherine's face. "Because you're valuable, and because Dante Salvatore protects what's his." She moved toward the elevator. "One more thing, Miss Rousseau. Don't try to run. Don't try to contact your old life. And don't underestimate what he's capable of. He may seem civilized, but that's just the surface. Underneath." She paused. "Underneath, he's the most dangerous man you'll ever meet." The elevator doors closed, leaving me alone in my golden cage. I spent the day exploring my new prison. The closet held clothes in exactly my size, ranging from casual to formal. The bathroom featured a tub big enough to swim in. The second bedroom had been converted into an office, complete with a laptop and books on international law and linguistics. Everything I might need, nothing I actually wanted. At 7:30, I showered and changed into simple black pants and a silk blouse I found in the closet. My hands trembled as I buttoned it. At 7:55, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find not Dante but Marco. "He's downstairs," the big man said. "Conference room. Follow me." We took the elevator down to the 15th floor, where Marco led me through a suite of offices that looked like they belonged to a Fortune 500 company. Everything was sleek, modern, expensive. People in suits, moved with purpose, barely glancing at me as we passed. At the end of a long hallway, Marco opened a set of double doors. Dante stood at the far end of a massive conference table, his back to me as he looked out floor-to-ceiling windows at the city below. He wore charcoal gray today, his dark hair still damp as if he'd recently showered. He didn't turn as I entered. "Close the door," he said quietly. Marco obeyed and left me alone with the man who now owned my life. Dante turned slowly. In the evening light, he looked different, younger somehow, despite the power that radiated from him like heat, but his eyes held the same cold certainty that had terrified me the night before. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "No. Honestly, good." He moved to the table, pulling out a chair. "Sit." I didn't move. "What do you want from me?" "Everything." He smiled then, sharp and dangerous. "Your languages, your discretion, your loyalty, and eventually, Elena, your trust. You'll never have that." "No?" He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he'd already solved. "We'll see. But first, I need to know if you're brave or just foolish. So, I'm going to show you something. And after you see it, you'll decide whether you can survive in my world." He opened a folder on the table and slid it toward me. "Look inside," he commanded softly, "and understand exactly what you've walked into." My fingers trembled as I reached for the folder. Inside were photographs. Not of violence, but of people. Dozens of them. Men, women, even children. Each photo marked with notes in multiple languages. "These are the people depending on me," Dante said quietly. "My family, my employees, their families, over 300 lives connected to my protection. When I eliminated that threat last night, I didn't do it for myself. I did it for them." I looked up, meeting his eyes. "Welcome to my world, Elena," he said. "Now let's see if you can handle it." The photographs haunted me, not because they were violent, they weren't, but because they were human. Real people with real lives, all tied to the dark empire of the man standing across from me. A little girl with her father's eyes, a woman holding a baby, an elderly couple smiling at a family dinner, all of them dependent on Dante Salvatore's capacity for violence to stay safe. "I don't understand," I said finally, my voice hollow. "You're showing me this because?" Because you need to understand what's at stake." Dante moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the quiet conference room. "You think I'm a monster. Maybe I am, but I'm their monster. And every decision I make, every threat I eliminate, every line I cross, it's to protect them. That doesn't make it right." "No," he agreed softly, "but it makes it necessary." He closed the folder and set it aside, then pulled out another document, this one a contract, printed on heavy paper. "Your employment agreement, $10,000 a month as promised. Your duties will include translation, interpretation at meetings, analysis of international communications, and occasional accompanying me to events requiring multilingual expertise." I scanned the document, my hands still trembling. It looked legitimate almost, except for one glaring omission. "There's no end date." "No. So I work for you forever? Until I release you from your obligation. Or..." His eyes met mine, something dangerous flickering in their depths. "Until you've repaid the debt." "What debt?" "I saved your life. If anything, you owe me." Dante's smile was sharp enough to cut. "Exactly. You saved my life, Elena. That creates a bond between us. In my world, that bond is sacred. You're mine to protect now, mine to use. And until I decide that debt is settled." He leaned forward, his hands flat on the table between us. "You belong to me." The words should have terrified me. They did terrify me. But underneath the fear, something else stirred. Something I didn't want to name. "What if I refuse to sign? Then you walk out that door right now. I'll still protect you from a distance, but you'll never be safe." "Not really, because the people who wanted me dead will eventually trace the warning back to you, and when they do..." He straightened, adjusting his cufflinks with casual grace. "Well, let's just say your linguistics degree won't save you from what they'll do to extract information." My throat went dry. "You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. Safety and purpose, or freedom and fear. Most people don't get even that much." I stared at the contract, at the elegant script detailing my new life. $10,000 a month. More money than I'd ever imagined having. Enough to pay off my student loans in a year. Enough to help my father with his medical bills. Enough to matter. All I had to do was sell my soul to a man with blood on his hands. I need to think about it, I whispered. You have 5 minutes. Dante checked his watch. Elegant, expensive, probably worth more than a car. I have a meeting at 9. Sign or don't, but decide. He walked to the windows, giving me his back with a confidence that suggested he already knew my answer. I looked down at the contract, at the money, at the promise of protection in a world that had suddenly become far more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. 5 minutes to decide the rest of your life. I thought about my father, struggling with his bills after my mother's death, about my tiny apartment and my minimum wage jobs, about the constant fear of not having enough, of always being one crisis away from disaster. And I thought about the way Dante had looked at those photographs, the weight in his eyes, the burden of all those lives depending on him. Maybe he was a monster. But monsters were sometimes the only thing standing between chaos and the people we loved. My hand trembled as I picked up the pen. Where do I sign? Dante didn't smile when I handed him the signed contract. He simply folded it precisely and slipped it into his jacket pocket. Good, he said. Catherine will handle the details. Your first assignment starts tomorrow. For now, go home. Rest. You'll need your strength. For what? For surviving me. He moved past me toward the door, then paused. One more thing, Elena. The people in those photographs, they're not the only ones depending on me now. You are too. Don't forget that. He left me alone in the conference room, my mind spinning, my hands still shaking from signing away my freedom. Marco appeared moments later to escort me back to my apartment. We rode the elevator in silence, but as we reached my floor, the massive man spoke for the first time. He's not what you think, Marco said quietly. The boss. Most people see the violence, the power, the control, but they don't see what it costs him. The weight of it. His dark eyes met mine. He chose you for a reason, Miss Rousseau. Try to trust that. Then he was gone, and I was alone in my beautiful cage. I spent the evening exploring the apartment more thoroughly, looking for cameras or bugs or any sign that my privacy was an illusion. I found nothing, but that didn't mean they weren't there. At midnight, unable to sleep, I stood at the windows looking out over the city. Somewhere out there, Dante was making decisions that would affect hundreds of lives. Somewhere out there, people were plotting, scheming, trying to destroy what he'd built, and now I was part of it. My phone buzzed, the one Catherine had given me. A text from an unknown number. Sleep well, Elena. Tomorrow, you learn what it really means to be mine. D. I stared at the message for a long time, my heart racing with fear and something else I refused to name. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Attached to the text was a photo. Me, standing at the window. Taken from somewhere outside, somewhere watching. I stumbled back from the glass, my breath coming in short gasps. He'd said I was protected. He'd said I was safe. But the photo proved what I'd already suspected. I wasn't just protected. I was possessed. I barely slept, and when I did, I dreamed of gray eyes watching me from the darkness. At 8 a.m., Catherine arrived with coffee and a garment bag. Your uniform, she said crisply, hanging the bag on my bedroom door. We leave in an hour. Mr. Salvatore has a meeting with associates from Milan. He needs you to interpret. Inside the bag was a dress elegant, expensive, the color of midnight. Nothing inappropriate, but it fit like it had been made for me. Because it probably had been. How long had Dante been planning this? Since the moment I opened my mouth in that restaurant, or had he been watching me before? The thought made my skin crawl and burn simultaneously. I dressed in silence, Catherine offering occasional instructions about appropriate behavior. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't make eye contact with anyone except Mr. Salvatore when he addresses to you. Don't ask questions about what you hear. Your job is to translate, nothing more. And if they ask me questions? Catherine's smile was thin. They won't. You're invisible, Elena. A tool. Get used to it. The words stung, but I suspected they were meant to. The meeting took place in a private room at a restaurant even more exclusive than Vincenzo's. 6 men in expensive suits sat around a table, their conversation flowing between Italian and English with occasional bursts of dialect I could barely follow. Dante sat at the head of the table, commanding without speaking, his presence alone enough to make every other man defer. I stood behind his right shoulder, close enough to whisper translations when needed, far enough to be dismissed. except Dante never dismissed me. Every time he needed a translation, he'd turn slightly, his eyes finding mine, holding my gaze as I murmured the words in his ear. His cologne wrapped around me cedar and something darker. Each time I leaned close, my heart raced, and I hated myself for the reaction. The meeting was about territory, shipping routes, percentages and payments, and thinly veiled threats wrapped in polite language. I translated mechanically, forcing myself not to think about what these words meant in the real world. Then one of the Italians, a thin man with cold eyes, asked a question in rapid dialect. I translated for Dante. He wants to know if you've dealt with the French situation. Dante's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Tell him it's been handled permanently. I translated. The thin man smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Bene, he said, then added something in dialect that made the other men laugh. I froze. Dante's hand moved, gripping my wrist beneath the table, a warning. His voice remained perfectly level. What did he say, Elena? I shouldn't translate it. I should lie, soften it, protect him from. His fingers tightened. Not painful, but absolute. He said. I swallowed. He said he's glad you found a pretty little translator, but he hopes you remember what happened to the last woman you kept close. He hopes you don't get attached to this one. The temperature in the room dropped. Dante released my wrist and stood slowly. Every eye turned to him. He smiled, that sharp, dangerous smile I was learning to fear. Tell him, Dante said softly, that my personal life is not his concern, and remind him that the last man who made it his concern is no longer breathing. I translated, my voice steady despite my thundering heart. The thin man's smile faded. He inclined his head. Mi scusi. Dante sat back down, and the meeting continued as if nothing had happened. But under the table, his hand found mine again, not restraining this time, but something else. His thumb brushed across my knuckles once, a gesture so brief I might have imagined it. Then he released me, and I spent the rest of the meeting trying to breathe normally. After the Italians left, Dante remained, seated, dismissing everyone except me with a gesture. We were alone in the private room, the remnants of expensive lunch still on the table. You did well, he said quietly, still not looking at me. I just translated. You held your ground when he tried to intimidate you, and you told me the truth, even knowing it might cause violence. Now he turned, those gray eyes finding mine. That takes courage. Or stupidity. I still can't tell which. His lips curved slightly. Both, probably. But I prefer honest courage to clever cowardice. He stood, moving toward me with that predatory grace. What he said, about the last woman. You want to know. It wasn't a question. It's none of my business. No, he agreed. But you're thinking about it anyway, wondering what happened, wondering if the same thing will happen to you. He was close now, too close. I could see the faint scar through his eyebrow, the shadows beneath his perfect control. Her name was Isabel, he said softly. She was important to me. I made the mistake of letting people know that. They used her to get to me. By the time I found her, his jaw clenched. She died because I failed to protect her, because I let emotion cloud my judgment. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. Be smart. Understand that anyone close to me becomes a target. That's why I keep people at a distance now. Why I don't. He stopped, something flickering across his face. Why you should be afraid of me, Elena. Not because I'll hurt you, but because my world will. Then why bring me into it? Because you were already in it the moment you opened your mouth. His hand rose, and I tensed, but he only brushed a strand of hair from my face. The gesture was gentle, almost tender, and somehow more dangerous than any threat. And because I'm selfish enough to want to keep you anyway. My breath caught. Dante, go home. Catherine will send you your schedule for the week. And Elena? His hand dropped, but his eyes held. Mine. Don't trust me. Don't let yourself care. Because everyone who does ends up destroyed. He turned and walked away, leaving me alone with the echo of his warning and the burning place on my cheek, where his fingers had brushed my skin. I should have been terrified. I should have run. Instead, I stood in that empty room and wondered what it said about me that his warning only made me want to understand him more. For 3 weeks, I lived in Dante's world. I interpreted at meetings where fortunes changed hands in whispers. I translated documents that never officially existed. I stood silent in rooms where power was negotiated with deadly precision. And slowly, Terrifyingly, I began to understand the intricate web that Dante had built. He wasn't just a criminal, he was an empire. But it was the nights that undid me. Twice a week, sometimes more, Dante would appear at my apartment late, always after midnight, always alone. He'd sit in my living room, accepting the coffee I'd learned to have ready, and we'd talk about nothing important. Books, languages, the city spreading below my windows. He never touched me again after that day in the restaurant, never crossed the invisible line between employer and something more dangerous. But the way he looked at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve, a temptation he was determined to resist, made my skin burn hotter than any touch. "Why do you come here?" I asked one night, unable to hold the question back any longer. Dante sat on my couch, tie loosened, exhaustion written in the shadows beneath his eyes. "Because you're the only person who isn't afraid to be honest with me. I'm terrified of you. But you still speak your mind, still challenge me. Do you know how rare that is?" He turned his head, gray eyes finding mine. "Everyone else tells me what I want to hear. You tell me the truth. The truth is that you're a criminal, that everything you've built is soaked in blood." "I know." His voice was soft, almost broken. "I carry every death on my shoulders, Elena. Every choice. Every consequence. You think I don't see it? The weight?" I moved closer without meaning to, drawn by the raw pain in his voice. "Then why not stop? Walk away? And let everything collapse? Let the families depending on me fall to whoever takes over? Let the city be torn apart by the chaos that would follow?" He laughed harsh and bitter. "There's no walking away from this. Not for me. Then you're trapped too. We're all trapped." He looked at me then. Really looked, and something shifted between us. But some cages are more beautiful than others. His hand rose, and this time I didn't flinch when his fingers traced my jaw. The touch was feather-light, questioning, giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. "You should run from me," he whispered. "You'd only find me." "Yes." His thumb brushed my lower lip. "I would." My phone shattered the moment Catherine's number flashing. Dante pulled back. Immediately, the walls slamming back into place. I answered with shaking hands. "Turn on the news," Catherine said without preamble. "Channel 7. Now." I grabbed the remote, Dante rising to stand beside me. The news anchor's face was grave. "Breaking story tonight. Federal prosecutors have announced a major investigation into alleged organized crime activity in the city. While no names have been released, sources suggest the target is one of the city's most powerful." Dante's jaw clenched. "They're moving faster than expected. What does this mean?" "It means someone inside my organization is feeding them information." He pulled out his phone, already texting. "I need to go. Stay inside tomorrow. Don't answer the door for anyone except Catherine or Marco." "Dante." He turned at the door, his eyes holding a warning and a promise. "This is about to get dangerous, Elena. More dangerous than you've seen. If you want out, tell me now. I'll arrange protection somewhere far from here." I should have said yes. Should have taken the escape he was offering. "I'm staying." Something fierce flashed across his face. "Then God help us both." He left, and I spent the night watching news coverage of an investigation that was clearly targeting the man I'd somehow become tangled with. The next day, Catherine arrived with breakfast and a security detail. "2 men outside your door at all times," she said. "Don't argue. The boss's orders." "What's happening?" "We're identifying the leak. It's complicated." Catherine's usual composure cracked slightly. "People are scared. When people are scared, they make mistakes. Sometimes fatal ones." I spent the day in my apartment, trying to focus on coursework but unable to stop checking the news. The investigation dominated every channel. Speculation ran rampant. And through it all, one name kept appearing. Dante Salvatore. At 8 p.m., Marco appeared at my door, his face grim. "Come with me. Now." "Where are we?" "No. Questions." "Move." The urgency in his voice killed any argument. I followed him down to the garage, where a different car waited nondescript, bulletproof glass. We drove in silence through back streets, finally pulling into an industrial building on the waterfront. Inside, the scene was chaos. Men in suits moved with military precision. Computer equipment covered every surface, and at the center of it all stood Dante, his jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled up, barking orders in rapid Italian. He saw me and froze. What the hell is she doing here? You said to bring her if things went sideways, Marco replied calmly. I meant to the safe house, not into the goddamn war room. Dante crossed to us in 3 strides. Elena, you can't be here. This is... Gunfire erupted outside. The world exploded into motion. Marco threw me to the ground, his body covering mine. Dante drew a weapon I hadn't known he was carrying. Men shouted, glass shattered, and through it all, my mind screamed one coherent thought. This is real. This is actually happening. Get her out, Dante roared. Now. Marco hauled me up, already moving toward a back exit. But I looked back, my eyes finding Dante's across the chaos. He stood calm in the storm, weapon raised, every inch the dangerous man I'd been warned about. And in that moment, I realized the terrible truth. I didn't want to run from him anymore. I wanted to stay. Marco got me out through a service tunnel that emerged 3 blocks from the warehouse. We ran through back alleys, my heels abandoned somewhere in the chaos, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might explode. Behind us, sirens wailed and more gunfire cracked through the night. Keep moving, Marco grunted, one massive hand on my arm, pulling me forward. What about Dante? We can't just leave him. The boss can handle himself. My job is keeping you alive. We reached another car, this one with a driver already waiting. Marco shoved me into the back seat and climbed in. After me. Safe house, Route 3. The driver nodded and we sped into the night. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The image of Dante standing in that warehouse, weapon drawn, eyes cold as winter it played on repeat in my mind. Who were they? I finally managed. Rivals, using the federal investigation as cover to make a move. Marco checked his phone, his expression darkening. The boss knew they'd try something. That's why he had us move to a secondary location. People died tonight. People were going to die regardless. At least this way, it's their people, not ours. The casual way he said it made bile rise in my throat. But what terrified me more was that I understood the logic. In Dante's world, violence wasn't optional, it was inevitable. The only question was who delivered it first. The safe house turned out to be a fortified penthouse in a different part of the city. Security was everywhere, armed men in suits, cameras in every corner, reinforced doors, and bulletproof windows. You'll stay here until the boss says otherwise, Marco said. Everything you need is already inside. Don't try to leave. Don't call anyone. Just wait. For how long? As long as it takes. He left me in a master bedroom that was somehow both luxurious and sterile. I paced like a caged animal, unable to sit still, unable to process what had just happened. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. I showered, washing gunpowder residue and terror from my skin, and changed into clothes that had been left for me, everything in my exact size, because of course Dante would think of that. At 3 a.m., I heard voices outside the bedroom door. Then it opened, and Dante walked in. He looked like hell. His white shirt was stained with blood, not his own, I realized with sick relief. His hair was disheveled. Exhaustion etched deep lines around his eyes. But he was alive. You're bleeding, I said, seeing the cut above his eyebrow. It's nothing. He moved past me toward the bathroom, already peeling off his ruined shirt. I followed without thinking. Let me see, Elena. Sit down and let me see. Something in my voice, maybe the way it shook, or the desperate edge of fear I couldn't hide, made him obey. He sat on the edge of the bathtub while I grabbed the first aid kit from under the sink. Up close, I could see the cut was deeper than I'd thought, and there were other injuries, bruises forming on his ribs, his knuckles split and raw. You should see a doctor, I said, cleaning the cut with trembling hands. I'm fine. You're bleeding all over my safe house. His lips curved slightly. Your safe house? If I'm stuck here, it's mine. I pressed gauze to the cut, my fingers gentle despite my shaking. What happened after we left? We eliminated the threat, neutralized their operation, sent a message that won't be misunderstood. His eyes found mine. It's handled, Elena. How many? How many? How many what? How many people died tonight? He held my gaze, not flinching from the question. 7. All of them armed. All of them there to kill me and anyone standing with me. His hand rose, covering mine against his face. Including you. I shouldn't have been there. No, you shouldn't have. His other hand caught my waist, pulling me between his legs, close enough that I had to brace against his shoulders. But you were. And when those bullets started flying, all I could think about was getting you out safely. My breath caught. Dante, I can't do this, he said roughly. Can't want you the way I do. Can't let myself feel what I'm feeling. It's dangerous for both of us. I kissed him. It wasn't planned. Wasn't calculated. I just needed to stop the words, stop the pushing away, stop pretending that we both weren't falling into something inevitable and terrifying. He froze for half a heartbeat. Then his arms came around me like steel, crushing me against him. And he kissed me back with a hunger that stole my breath. It was nothing like I'd imagined. Not controlled or careful or gentle. It was desperate and raw and tasted like violence and need. His hands fisted in my hair, angling my head, deepening the kiss until I was drowning in him. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Elena, he said against my lips, his voice wrecked. We can't. I know. This will destroy you. I know. I looked into his eyes, those storm-gray eyes that had haunted my dreams. I don't care anymore. You should. But his hands didn't release me. If anything, he held me tighter. Everyone I've ever loved ends up destroyed. I told you about Isabel. I'm not her. No, you're not. His forehead dropped against mine. You're braver, smarter, more stubborn, which makes this even more dangerous. Then let me go. His arms tightened. I can't. The words were barely a whisper. God help me, Elena. I can't. We stayed like that, tangled together in the bathroom of a safe house while the city burned around us. His heartbeat thundered against my palm. Mine raced in answer. Stay tonight, I whispered. Just tonight. We can figure out the rest tomorrow. He pulled back to look at me, searching my face for something. Whatever he found there made his expression crack just for a moment, the mask dropping to reveal the man underneath. Just tonight, he agreed. We moved to the bedroom, fully clothed, too exhausted and too wired for anything more than existence. He pulled me against his chest, his arms wrapped around me like I might disappear. I'm going to hurt you, he said into my hair. Even if I don't mean to. Even if I try my hardest not to. My world will hurt you. I know. And you're staying anyway? I'm staying anyway. His arms tightened. Then hold on, Elena. Because everything's about to get worse before it gets better. I believed him. I just didn't realize how right he'd be. I woke to an empty bed and the sound of Dante's voice in the next room, speaking rapid Italian, into his phone. The sun was barely up, painting the safe house in shades of gray and gold. Last night came rushing back the kiss, the desperate way we'd clung to each other, the confession that neither of us could walk away now even if we should. I found him standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows, fully dressed in a fresh suit, looking out at the city he controlled. He'd showered, shaved, put the mask back in place. The vulnerable man from last night was gone. Coffee's in the kitchen, he said without turning. Catherine will be here in an hour to brief you on new security protocols. Dante. Last night was a mistake. His voice was flat, controlled. We were both running on adrenaline and fear. It meant nothing. The words hit like a physical blow. You don't mean that. I do. Now he turned and his eyes were cold, distant. The man I'd first met in that restaurant. You work for me, Elena. That's all. Anything else is a liability I can't afford. So you're going to pretend it didn't happen? I'm going to ensure it doesn't happen again. He moved past me toward the door. I have meetings today. Stay here. Marco will guard you. I'm not a prisoner. You are until I say otherwise. He paused at the door, his back to me. This is my world, Elena. I told you to be afraid of it. I told you not to trust me. You should have listened. He left, and I stood alone in the safe house, my heart cracking in ways I hadn't known were possible. Catherine arrived with coffee and files, lots of files. The federal investigation is expanding, she said briskly. They have a witness. Someone from inside the organization willing to testify. My stomach dropped. Who? We don't know yet, but they know things only someone close would know. Banking records, shipment routes, names. Catherine's eyes met mine. They know about you. The world tilted. What? You're listed as a potential witness. Someone gave them your name, your employment, your apartment address. She pulled out a document, a federal subpoena with my name on it. They want you to testify about what you've seen and translated in the past month. I can't. I won't. You don't have a choice. If you refuse, they'll charge you with obstruction. You'll go to prison. Catherine's expression was unreadable. Unless what? Unless we can prove you were coerced. An unwilling participant who feared for her life. She leaned forward. The question is, Elena, were you? I stared at her, understanding the trap. If I said yes, I'd be admitting Dante forced me into this. If I said no, I'd be complicit in everything I'd witnessed. I need to talk to Dante. He's the one who sent me. He wants you to cooperate with the federal investigators. My blood went cold. What? He wants you to testify. To tell them everything you know. Catherine's voice was clinical. It's the only way to keep you out of prison, and the only way to prove you were never really part of his organization. He's throwing me away. The realization made me sick. Last night meant nothing to him. He's just protecting himself. He's protecting you. For the first time, emotion cracked through Catherine's composure, but you're too blind to see it. She left me with the subpoena and a choice that felt impossible. I spent the day in hell. Marco stood guard outside my door, silent and immovable. I called Dante 17 times. He didn't answer. At sunset, I heard voices outside sharp, arguing. Then the door opened and Marco entered, his expression grim. You need to see something. He held out a tablet. Before you make any decisions about testifying. On the screen was a video file. I pressed play. It was security footage from Vincenzo's restaurant, the night I first met Dante. But the angle was wrong. This wasn't from the restaurant's cameras. This was from someone's phone, hidden, capturing everything. I watched myself approach Dante's table, watched myself whisper the translation, watched his hand close around my wrist. But then the video continued. It showed me leaving work, getting into Dante's car, showed me signing the contract days later, showed me at meetings, standing behind Dante, translating conversations that would bury us both. Where did this come from? I whispered. The federal investigators. It was leaked to us by someone on the inside. Marco's voice was heavy. Elena, this doesn't look like coercion. This looks like willing participation. But I was forced. Were you? Because from here it looks like you made choices, accepted money, attended meetings of your own free will. He took the tablet back. If you testify, this is what they'll show the jury, and it will destroy both you and the boss. My mind raced. The video was real, but it told only part of the story. Without context, without the fear and the threats and the protection, it just looked like I'd willingly joined Dante's organization. Someone set me up, I said, from the beginning. Someone wanted me close to Dante for this exact purpose. Yes. Dante's voice came from the doorway. I spun. He stood there, still in his suit, exhaustion etched in every line of his body, but his eyes, God, his eyes held so much pain. I figured it out this morning, he said quietly. The Frenchmen in the restaurant weren't random. They were planned. Someone knew you spoke French, knew you'd overhear, knew you'd warn me. He moved into the room. You were bait, Elena. Designed to get close to me so they could document everything and use it to bring us both down. Who? Someone I trusted. His jaw clenched. Someone inside my own organization who wanted me gone and needed a witness they could control. But I don't understand. Why me? Because you were perfect, smart, innocent, sympathetic. If you testified, juries would believe you. He stopped in front of me. And if you refused to testify, they'd have footage showing you were complicit, forcing me to either let you go to prison or reveal how deep my protection of you goes. It's a no-win situation. Yes. His hand rose, cupping my face with heartbreaking gentleness. So I'm going to do what I should have done from the beginning. I'm going to let you go. What? Tonight. Marco will take you somewhere safe. New identity, new city, enough money to start over. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. You'll be free, Elena. Truly free. From me, from this case, from all of it. No. I grabbed his wrist. I'm not running. You have to. I said no. I pulled his hand down but didn't release it. You told me I belonged to you, that you'd protect me. Were those lies? Elena, were they lies, Dante? No, he said roughly. But protecting you means letting you go. What if I don't want to go? What if I choose to stay and fight? His expression cracked. Then we'll both be destroyed. Maybe, I agreed. Or maybe we'll survive. Together. I stepped closer. I'm done running. Done being afraid. If you want me gone, you'll have to force me. Otherwise, I'm staying. For a long moment he just looked at me. Then he pulled me against him, his arms crushing me close, his face buried in my hair. "You're going to regret this," he whispered. "Probably," I agreed. "But I'll regret leaving more behind us." Marco cleared his throat. "Boss, we have a problem. The mole just made contact. He wants to meet." Dante pulled back, his expression hardening. "Who is it?" "Someone you're not going to like." And in that moment I knew everything was about to explode. The name hit like a bullet. "Vincent." Dante's voice was dead. "My cousin." "My blood." We stood in the safe house living room, me, Dante, Marco, and Catherine. The betrayal hung in the air like smoke. "He's been feeding information to the feds for 6 months, Catherine said, her tablet displaying communications logs. Bank records, shipment routes, names of everyone in the organization. He gave them Elena specifically. Arranged for those French men to be in the restaurant the same night she was working." "Why?" I asked. "Why do all this?" "Power." Dante's hands clenched into fists. "Vincent always thought he should have inherited control of the family. That my father chose wrong when he named me heir. This is his revenge. Destroy me, take over the organization, and deliver a gift-wrapped case to the federal investigators, so they'll let him operate freely in exchange for his testimony." "What are you going to do?" My voice came out small. Dante's eyes met mine. In them, I saw the war between the man and the monster. "What I have to." "Dante, he wants to meet, tonight, just him and me, to discuss terms for his testimony." His jaw clenched. "He thinks he's won, thinks he has me trapped." "It's obviously a trap," Marco said. "He'll have federal agents there, probably hoping to get you on tape threatening him or making some admission they can use." "I know." Dante moved to the window. "Which is why I'm going to give him exactly what he expects." Catherine's eyes widened. "You can't be serious." "I am. Vincent gets his meeting, gets his confession, gets everything he thinks he wants." Dante turned back to us, and the expression on his face made my blood run cold. "And then he gets what's coming to him." "Boss," Marco said carefully, "if you kill him, especially with federal surveillance." "I'm not going to kill him." Dante's smile was sharp enough to cut. "Elena is." The room went silent. "Excuse me?" I finally managed. Dante crossed to me, his movements predatory. "Vincent doesn't know you. Doesn't know you've figured out his game. He thinks you're still a pawn, scared, confused, ready to testify against me to save yourself." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we use that. You go to the meeting with me, play the frightened victim, get close to him." His hand cupped my face. "And when the moment comes, you end this. You want me to kill him?" My voice cracked. "Dante, I can't. You can, and you will, because it's the only way out of this for both of us." His eyes bored into mine. "Vincent set you up, used you, would have sent you to prison without a second thought. He deserves what's coming. I'm not a killer. No, but I am. And if you stay in my world, you need to understand what that means." He released me, stepping back. "This is your choice, Elena. Your real choice. Walk away now, and I'll still get you out safely. Stay, and prove you can survive what my world demands." I looked at Catherine and Marco. Neither met my eyes. This was it. The moment I'd been hurtling toward since that first night in Vincenzo's. The moment I had to decide who I was going to become. "How?" I whispered. Dante's expression flickered pride mixed with regret. "I'll teach you." The meeting was set for midnight at a warehouse on the waterfront. Neutral territory. Vincent's choice. I wore a wire federal grade, provided by Vincent himself when I'd called him, pretending to want to help his case. He'd been eager, almost gleeful, giving me instructions on how to get Dante to confess on tape. What he didn't know was that the wire fed to Dante's people, not the federal investigators. "Remember," Dante said as we prepared to leave, "you're scared, confused. You want out but don't know how. Play into his ego, make him feel powerful. And then?" He handed me a gun, small, light, easy to conceal. "When I give the signal, you end it. Close range, center mass. Don't hesitate." My hands shook as I took the weapon. "Dante, I don't know if I can." He pulled me close, his lips against my ear. "Yes, you can. Because you're stronger than you know. And because you love me." The words froze me. He pulled back, his eyes searching mine. "Don't you?" he asked softly. "I should deny it." Should laugh it off or call him crazy? Yes, I whispered instead. God help me, yes. His kiss was brief but fierce. Then trust me. And when this is over, I'll tell you what that means to me. The warehouse was cold and empty. Vincent stood in the center, flanked by two men I didn't recognize. He was younger than Dante, handsome in a softer way, with eyes that held cunning instead of honor. Cousin, he said, smiling. And the lovely Elena, thank you for coming. Let's get this over with, Dante said flatly. You wanted to talk. Talk. I want you to confess. On recording, everything you've done, every life you've taken, every law you've broken. Vincent's smile widened. Do that, and I'll make sure Elena here walks away clean. Refuse, and she goes down with you. You set her up, Dante said. Used her. I created the perfect witness. The only question is whether she testifies for me or against me. Vincent turned to me. What's it going to be, Elena? Save yourself, or die protecting a monster? I let tears fill my eyes, not hard, given how terrified I was. I just want this to be over. Then help me. Tell him to confess. Tell him it's the only way. I moved closer to Vincent, playing my role. Dante, please. I can't go to prison. I can't. I know, Dolcezza. Dante's voice was soft, resigned. I know. That was the signal. I pulled the gun from my jacket. Vincent's eyes widened. His men reached for their weapons. I pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening. Vincent staggered back, blood blooming across his white shirt. His men drew their guns, but Marco and 3 others I hadn't seen emerged from the shadows, weapons trained. Drop them, Marco commanded. They did. I stood frozen, the gun still raised, my ears ringing. Vincent collapsed to his knees, clutching his chest. You bitch, he gasped. You actually, Dante crossed to him in 2 strides and crouched down. You tried to destroy me using an innocent woman. Did you really think I'd let that stand? The feds. They'll know. The feds will find evidence that you were the real criminal, that you set up your own cousin and manufactured evidence. All the files, all the recordings, they'll point to you. Dante's smile was cold. You lose, Vincent, completely. Vincent's eyes found mine. Hatred and disbelief warred in them. You're damned now, both of you. We were always damned, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. But at least we're damned together. He collapsed fully, his breathing shallow. Dante rose and turned to Marco. Clean this up, make it look like a deal gone wrong, and make sure the federal investigators get the revised evidence package. Yes, boss. Dante took my hand, the one not holding the gun, and led me out of the warehouse. We didn't speak as Marco drove us through the city, back to the safe house, back to the only sanctuary we had left. Inside, Dante finally took the gun from my trembling fingers. You did it, he said quietly. You survived. I killed him. The reality crashed over me. I actually killed him. Yes. To protect us both. To survive! His hands framed my face. This is what my world demands, Elena. Can you live with that? Can you live with me? I looked into his eyes, those storm-gray eyes that had haunted me from the beginning. Yes, I said. I can. And I kissed him like I was drowning and he was air. We didn't make it to the bedroom. The moment our lips met, something broke open between us, all the fear, the violence, the weeks of denying what we both felt. Dante backed me against the wall, his hands in my hair, his body crushing mine with a desperation that matched my own. Elena, he breathed against my mouth. Tell me you're sure. Tell me you want this. I'm sure. My fingers fumbled with his jacket, shoving it off his shoulders. I want you, all of you, even the darkness. His kiss turned savage. There was nothing gentle about the way he touched me, nothing civilized or controlled. This was the real Dante, stripped of masks, letting me see the hunger and need and terrifying devotion underneath. We shed clothes between kisses, leaving a trail, across the living room. By the time we reached the couch, I was bare and trembling, and he was looking at me like I was salvation and destruction wrapped in one impossible package. You're so beautiful, he whispered, his hands mapping every inch of my skin. So brave, so perfect. I'm not. You are. He kissed my throat, my collarbone, the racing pulse at my wrist. You stood beside me tonight, pulled that trigger without hesitation, chose me over everything safe and sane. His eyes met mine. That makes you perfect for me. I pulled him down, needing him closer, needing to drown in him until the memory of gunfire and blood faded. Show me what it means to be yours. What followed was both tender and fierce, Dante, worshipping my body with hands and mouth, drawing sounds from me I didn't know I could make, pushing me to the edge and pulling me back until I was begging. And when he finally joined us together, when we moved as one in the darkness, it felt like coming home and falling off a cliff simultaneously. Mine? He growled against my throat as we chased release together. Say it. Say you're mine. Yours. I gasped. Only yours. We shattered together, and in that moment, nothing else existed. Not the violence, not the danger, not the impossible situation we'd created. Just us, tangled together, hearts racing in unison. After, we lay on the couch, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. Neither of us spoke for a long time. What happens now? I finally asked. Now we survive. Together. His arms tightened around me. The federal case will collapse without Vincent's testimony. The evidence Catherine manufactured will point to him as the real criminal. You'll be questioned, probably, but with the right lawyer. That's not what I meant. I propped myself up to look at him. I mean us. What are we, Dante? He studied my face, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he smiled a real smile, soft and heartbreakingly genuine. You're the woman who saved my life, who saw the darkness in me and didn't run, who pulled a trigger to protect what we have. His hand cupped my face. You're mine, Elena, in every way that matters, and I'm yours, if you'll have me. Even though your world is violence, even though, I won't lie to you, it won't get easier. There will be more threats, more danger, more impossible choices, but I swear to you, I'll protect you through all of it. I'll give you everything I have, my loyalty, my power, my broken, blood-stained heart. Tears burned my eyes. You're not broken. I am, but maybe. His thumb brushed my tears away. Maybe with you I can be something better. Not good, I'll never be good, but better. I kissed him softly. I love you, even though I shouldn't, even though it's insane. I love you too. The words seemed to cost him something. I never thought I'd say that again after Isabel. Never thought I'd let myself feel this. But you. He pulled me impossibly closer. You make me believe in second chances. We stayed like that, wrapped in each other, as dawn slowly painted the sky outside. 3 weeks later, the federal investigation collapsed. Evidence emerged that Vincent had manufactured the entire case, framing Dante as part of an elaborate power grab. The witness testimony fell apart. The surveillance footage was proven to be edited, and Elena Rousseau, the supposed key witness, was revealed to be a victim of coercion who'd bravely helped expose the real criminal. Vincent's body was found in the river, apparently killed by his own associates when the scheme fell apart. The media ran the story for a week, then moved on. The city forgot. Life returned to normal, or as normal as life could be when you were in love with the most dangerous man in the city. I kept my apartment but spent most nights at Dante's penthouse. I continued translating for him, attending meetings, learning the intricate web of his empire. But, now, I did it as his partner, not his employee. Catherine became my unlikely friend, teaching me how to navigate Dante's world with grace. Marco remained my silent protector, though I caught him smiling more often. And Dante. Dante showed me parts of himself I suspected no one else had ever seen. The man who read poetry in Italian at 3 a.m., who donated millions to children's charities anonymously, who carried the weight of hundreds of lives on his shoulders and never complained about the burden. He was still dangerous, still capable of terrible violence, but he was also mine. Do you regret it? He asked one night as we stood on his balcony, looking out over the city he controlled. Pulling that trigger? Choosing this life? I thought about the woman I'd been 2 months ago, innocent, invisible, safe. I thought about the woman I'd become harder, wiser, loved by a monster. No, I said honestly. This isn't the life I planned, but it's the life I have, and I wouldn't change. He pulled me against him, his arms wrapped around me from behind. You're extraordinary, Elena Rousseau. You know that? I learned from the best. His lips brushed my temple. We're going to have a good life together. Strange and dangerous, but good. I promise you that. Even though everyone will say we're wrong, that what we have is twisted, especially because of that. He turned me to face him. Let them judge. Let them whisper. We know the truth that sometimes love requires darkness to survive. That sometimes the monster is the only one brave enough to love the beauty without trying to tame her. I kissed him under the stars, this man who'd pulled me into hell and taught me to embrace the flames. Je t'aime, I whispered in French, the language that had started everything. Ti amo, he replied in Italian. For the rest of my life, Elena. In this world and whatever comes after. We stood together on that balcony, the city spreading below us like a kingdom of shadows and light. And for the first time since that night in Vincenzo's restaurant, I wasn't afraid. I was home, in the arms of a monster who loved me with the same savage intensity he ruled his empire. In the heart of darkness where I'd finally found my light. This was my life now, dangerous, impossible, and absolutely perfect.